Hi, I'm Ken Gordon, spiritual leader for Centers for Spiritual Living, and I'm here to go through and review the principles that we have and that we implant and we put into action for our theme Sundays that we're doing for 2016. And we're moving into August right now, which is the global vision of beauty, nature, art, and aesthetics. And we start off August 7th with Reverend Jeff Anderson, who's from the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living. And the topic that we have is we believe in eternal loving kindness. Now, we all know what it's like to feel kind. We know how empowering that is to be there. And we also know that the majority of people in our lives are kind. They're very, very powerful. I would say that 99% of the people of the world are like you and I, and they are kind and loving. And so Jeff Anderson writes in his quote, "Love is the lodestone of life. There's nothing cold or unfeeling about the philosophy of religious science and the practice of the science of mind. To be effective, it must pulsate with deep feeling as it reaches back to the original source. It must bring some knowledge of the kingdom of heaven into the consciousness of man. Coldness, criticism, unkindness have no place in this philosophy or in this science." He also wrote, "Let us therefore light the candle of love, human kindness, forgiveness, and understanding as our own soul. And let it shine brightly. Let us not peer into the darkness, troubled and concerned because it's so foreboding and unknown. Rather, let's remain steadfast in the radiance of that spiritual light of truth within ourselves. Let us stand guard so that the winds of malice, cross purposes, ignorance, or misunderstanding will not blow out that light. Let us so live each day that the light from our candle of spiritual knowledge will forever be clear and understood, not only by ourselves, but by all with whom we come in contact." And Dr. Ernest wrote that in Help for Today. It's quite obvious that this kindness is something that is eternal and internal within each and every one of us. And our true application is to be able to apply it to life and to put it into activity. We move on to August 14th, and that comes from Dr. Deborah Gordon from Centers for Spiritual Living, Kelowna, BC, somebody who I know very personally as a brilliant and wonderful human being, my loving wife. And her topic was, "We see a world which has renewed its emphasis on beauty, nature, and love through the resurgence of creativity, art, and aesthetics. An important piece of our soul's journey is fulfilling the creative nature that's inherent in each of us," she says. And today's lesson calls for us to look at ourselves and see if we're making conscious use of this blessing. Dr. Holmes wrote, "To be creative seems to be a fundamental drive that of necessity must find an outlet in a constructive manner if one is to be full and complete human being." He writes that from Thoughts Are Things. And if there is anything that is true, it truly is that sense of fulfillment within each of us that needs to be attained. Holmes also writes, "There is always the greater possibility available to you. There is a divine strength and an infinite wisdom at the center of your being, ever waiting to be released, that enables you to put more into life and living and to take more out of it. A limitless creativity exists and expresses through all that is. It is always seeking a fuller channel of expression through you. Recognize that it exists and accept its action in your life." This also comes from Thoughts Are Things with Willis Kinnear. Holmes also added, "Every one of us personally has back of us the potential of the universe. There is an irresistible potential pressing against everyone for self-expression. If we listen, we shall hear it, not as a voice most, but as a feeling, as a divine urge to express. If we believe in it, it shall manifest through us. And if we keep our consciousness active and alive to it, the volume that flows through us by our consent will necessarily increase. But we have to believe that it will." And that comes from Creative Living, page 58. Our next week is from Jill Brocklehurst from Centers for Spiritual Living, Campbell River, British Columbia, and this will be August 21st. And once again, on our August theme, the global vision is beauty, nature, art, and aesthetics. The topic that she is addressing is we believe in the eternal givingness of all life, which of course is one of our principles from Dr. Holmes. And Jill points out that our limiting beliefs are like the pavement. The perfect abundance of God is ever present, but our thoughts, beliefs, and words are like cement trucks that pour over the good that's ever present. Ernest Holmes asks, how much life can any man experience? As much as he can embody. Thoughts don't change the ever-present nature of the all-giving life that's in abundance everywhere. Our thoughts may limit our experience of what is always there. But our prayer isn't that God might change. Our prayer is that we might change so that we see rightly. Next week comes from Reverend Abigail Scherer from Centers for Spiritual Living Peninsula, which is in Redwood City, California. And this is for the August 28th. And her principle is, we see a world in which resources are valued, cared for, and growing, and where there is generous and continuous sharing of these resources. Isn't this the truth? Isn't this what we really seek in life, is to be able to use our assets as human beings in order to fulfill everyone, in order to allow us to help create a world that works for all. Dr. Michael Beckwith writes in his 40-day Mind Fast Soul Feast, the good of God is intangible substance. When you ask in faith, believing this substance takes the form of all things necessary for the fulfillment of your life's purpose, including the tangible prosperity that you require. Your part is to access the divine dimension of your being, which allows you to simply give in and let divine love be a constant current flowing through and as your life. Willingly enter into the stream of love and watch how you are carried by the unstoppable dynamic of God's love, calling you to be bigger than you ever thought you could be. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, writes, free yourself forever from the thought that God may be pleased by a life of sacrifice, or that the world is any better because of your misery, or that righteousness is more perfectly expressed through poverty than abundance. Know that the greater abundance of every good thing which you are, as you are bringing out in your life, the more perfectly you are satisfying the divine urge within you. Anything you can dream of is not too great for you to undertake. This, of course, comes from The Science of Mind, page 288. And Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics stated that the word affluence is an overworked word in our time. It usually is implying cars and houses and baubles of all kinds, but its literal meaning is an abundant flow, and not things at all. When we're consciously centered in the universal flow, we experience inner direction and the unfoldment of creative activity. Things come too, but prosperity is not just having things, it's the consciousness that attracts those things. So I thank you, and I trust that this will be a wonderful month of August for each and every one of you, and that we'll do a wonderful job of creating a world that works for all by beginning to make sure that we become connected between our principles and our beliefs of our own mind and life.